You are listening to Rip's Music Podcast, where we make your music your business. Drummer, educator, and music coach Rip Phelan asks real working musicians to share the keys of their successes.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Rip's Music. Today with me I have CJ Thompson. He's a guitarist and multi-instrumentalist, and he's going to talk about his experience in the music business and strategies and tips he can help you guys with yours. So CJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick.
Cool. So first tell us a little bit about you're a guitarist. Like, what do you do today? What's your career looking like as of now?
Right now, mostly I'm doing a lot of freelance playing, whether it's with jazz groups, rock groups, country groups, cover bands, even down to doing, acoustic cover duos in bars and stuff like that, which is really common because bars don't like to pay a lot of people.
Well, first let's hear about your background.
Okay.
So,
I started playing music when I was about 10 years old. The year before I was able to start band, actually, my older brother had been in band when he was in 6th grade, but he didn't really have the work ethic to do it. So I picked up his instrument a little bit when I was really young, which was trumpet, but I fell off of that because it wasn't really my thing. So then after that I got into band and I started playing clarinet, and since then I've been playing clarinet for about 16 years. And then after that I started saxophone and flute, and I didn't really start playing guitar until I was in high school.
Yeah.
Because that was the cool thing to do.
Of course.
And so started playing guitar then. Growing up in the country, my dad was excited about me playing guitar, but he's old school country guy, so of course after a year or so of playing guitar and kind of taking off with that, oh, here's a banjo and a mandolin, figure those out, CJ.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what I did, and then after high school I ended up going to SMU to study political science. Did that, marched in the band there playing saxophone, which was nice, paid for my house. After a lot of things with my family, decided that music was really what I wanted to pursue as my living, and so transferred out of there, went to Collin for a while.
Okay.
Did that, played in the lab band and combos at Collin, played at jazz festivals and things, typical college music experience. And yeah, then I started working here and met you.
Okay. Hey, there we are.
Yeah.
Well, kind of go back a little bit and talk about what was that like? Because I've had a few guys that I've interviewed, they've always said that, music was always there. They've even tried doing a few other things, and it just always came back to music. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, for me, I don't get me wrong, I'm still a big political science, public policy nerd.
Sure.
I've worked on campaigns and stuff even since I've stopped pursuing that as my profession for the moment, but I've done some campaign work for people running for national delegates, state representatives, things like that.
Right.
But yeah, it really just, after, my dad is, for being 24, my dad is very old for having a 24-year-old son. He's
Really?
73.
Wow.
Yeah, so as I started, as my dad's health started deteriorating with his age, it really became more clear to me that, I could either go for stability, that was finger quotes for those of you in audio land, that was, for stability, that I wanted to do something that was not music, although ever since I started, from day one on clarinet, I knew what I wanted to do was music.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. But after all of that and realizing that, with my dad's health and everything, kind of making me realize that stability is a very, very small part of life and an overall enjoyable life experience. So I really wanted to do something that I could be fulfilled in doing every day, and that was music for me.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, a little bit further with that. So now you have, all right, stability is not really as tangible as we think.
Yeah.
So you made a decision to go into music. How are you going to make that your livelihood?
Well, for me, a lot of it, and I think, some areas are better about this than others. For me, one big part of it was networking and just getting to know people in the scene. And I was fortunate that, you know, whenever I transferred to Collin, I ended up meeting one of the first people that I met there was a saxophone player who works a lot in town. And
who's that?
Aaron Whitman.
Yeah.
You've seen me play with him. Yeah, you played with us. Yeah, and so whenever I first met him, you know, we're about the same age.
Sure.
And when I first met him, you know, I heard him like playing in the hall or something, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's really good.
Yeah.
And you know, I started talking to him, and you know, a year later, I transferred into the school, and then we were playing in the same combos and things like that.
Right.
And from there, you know, just playing out with him really, really opened it up to me meeting other people. And it really helped with my confidence a lot, too, because after, you know, after 2.5, 3 years of not really playing seriously, you know, because political science is a very demanding degree plan.
You're studying.
Yeah, and so that was more something I did for recreation than actually to pursue it seriously. And so after that, you know, I really just, I wanted to do music for a living, and so, you know, doing classes and things like that to gain the knowledge and really practicing a lot. No substitute for that. And then other than that, just trying to push myself beyond where I'm comfortable in working even, you know, I mean, first country gig that I took, even though I grew up like in the country, I'm not a country guy, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But first country gig I ever took, you know, I went for it without really having the background in country music that a lot of people in town would have, but it was one of those things like, if I tell myself that I'm going to do it, and if I put myself in this situation, then I have no other choice but to do it, right? And so that's really how it's been for me, at least with taking certain gigs like that. And so really it's just about, for me, it's always been about variety. It's always been about being as flexible as I possibly can as a musician. And that's really what's helped me get to where I can, you know, support myself doing it at 24. So, yeah, I mean, whether it's playing duo gigs in bars or touring with country bands that, you know, pull in $5-6 grand in a night, like, that's all just, again, it's about the variety and being able to do it. Even this past summer, I did a show through an entertainment company that I had to audition for at Fair Park in Dallas, and it was essentially a boy band. But, you know, again, for me, it's always been about drawing on the skill sets that I've been trying to build my whole life, which are, you know, I've done theater, band, debate, choir, and dance. Like, my whole life.
So might as well throw all those skills together. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. I might as well try and take the work that somebody with that skill set is prepared to do, you know?
So how did you get that gig? What was that process like?
Well, I knew somebody who was working sort of in talent acquisition for this company, and she posted an ad on Facebook that was essentially along the lines of like, hey, are you a guy that has singing and dancing experience? Come audition for this show. And so I went, and there were guys in the audition that were like musical theater majors. But I think, and it, you know, this might be kind of getting ahead of myself, but I do think that having an instrumental background versus having like a musical theater background has been really helpful for me, because I don't know, I feel like going through, you know, the theory, oral skills, all that kind of stuff is really helpful, especially when you're doing like a boy band kind of show where you have to be able to hear close harmonies.
It's funny that you don't think about that when you hear boy bands. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the last thing you think of theory.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting down to the nitty-gritty, like almost the nerdy part of music.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think of people who have egos. They just want to go out and perform. And,
yeah, and definitely that did help me get the job in that, you know, whenever there were a few rounds of auditions. We had callbacks and things. And so the first one was just a solo audition where I went in and just did a song for them, played guitar, and sang. And then they called me back to do the audition with all the other guys that they had called back.
Okay.
And that was also, you know, picking up choreography. So basically they showed us the choreography like 2 times, and then we had to do it for the owners of the company.
Sure.
And then they gave us sheet music, and we had to like listen to a recording of, I think it was a Beach Boys tune. And then they put us in groups, and everybody had to choose a part and do that. And so I think the nerdy part of music that you were talking about really helped me get the job, because I was the only guy in the room in the audition going, okay, so, you know, I'm a third below you, and you're a third above this guy, and this guy's doubling the melody on the top, and that kind of thing. And so, you know, I know that the musical directors for that company were hearing me do that and go, oh, okay, so this guy knows what's going on.
Training pays off, right?
Definitely. And so between that and having at least some dance experience and some theater experience, you know, that's how I ended up getting that gig. And yeah, it was grueling, though. I mean, 8 performances a day in the summer outside.
Did it pay, though?
It did pay.
Okay.
It paid very well. I mean, we're doing 8 30-minute performances a day, 30-minute tops.
Sure.
Same show every time.
Right.
And we were getting $40 a show, $40 a set.
Okay.
So doing that.
Half an hour, so $80 an hour.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So 4 hours of work?
Yeah, for 4 hours of work, 5 days a week.
Okay. I might be able to give around that if I could sing and dance.
Yeah, right. You know,
if I can, so.
And that was another one of those things. That's one of those things that I didn't know that I would be able to do it.
Right.
You know, it was just something that I went, hey, I've done this and I've done this.
Yeah.
So I should go audition for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's sort of about variety and taking chances, at least. Right. I think especially for somebody really young and trying to get into the music scene in whatever city they're in.
Right.
You know, it's really about getting out of your comfort zone and understanding that a job is a job. Whenever I started playing guitar in high school, you know, I started my first few little rock bands.
Yeah.
And again, all the guys that I was really fortunate. All the guys that I always played with were guys that I knew from band in school.
Sure.
You know, so like the drummer in our band played percussion in band at school and played kit and jazz band at school and was in marching band with us and stuff. You know, one of the other guitar players was another saxophone player. And so that was always really helpful because I feel like one, you know, we all had a strong enough background in both just music in general to understand what we were doing, but also in a band experience, even though I'm talking about like wind band.
Yeah.
To know how a rehearsal is supposed to be run.
Right.
And so, you know, I played in a few different iterations of a rock band that I worked in high school. Then after we all graduated and started college, while I was at SMU, we decided to try and get this thing going again. And it actually ended up being really successful, and we ended up planning a tour and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, for that, you know, it's another one of those situations talking about taking risks.
Yeah.
We all withdrew from school when this thing started taking off because the decision was, do we want to take the chance on this thing that we've all been building for 4 years, and if you want to look at it in terms of musical education at large, which I think we were all playing music because it was something we were considering pursuing.
Right.
You know,
profession.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think for all of us the decision was, college will always be there. We're all in good standing with our universities that we're at. So if we withdraw for a semester or a year and decide that, you know, this isn't working, we want to go back, it's not like we can't.
Right.
Not that our parents were extremely happy with that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was, at least for me, my parents weren't really paying for me to go to school, so it wasn't really their decision.
Not that much of a risk.
Yeah.
Still a risk.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
because, you know, the fact is, if something happened while we were doing that, and, like, you know, if financially I couldn't come back, or if, you know, my scholarships would be reduced when I came back or something like that, then, yeah, I'd be out of luck.
Right.
So, yeah, it's another one of those situations of taking risks. I'm kind of looking into doing that now with other rock bands where, you know, guys that I've met in the scene in town are now wanting me to come play lead in whatever band they're trying to start. Although now it's sort of the opposite side of it, where I'm getting to go, okay, is this, because I'm already doing these things, is this risk something that I want to put the time and effort and money into?
Sure.
And ultimately it comes down to, for me, I made a very, very, I don't want to say necessarily that it was a poor decision, but when I was in high school, I knew some guys that wanted me to be in a band with them.
Yeah.
And I turned it down because it wasn't really my style of music.
Yeah.
Because at that time, for me, I had just started playing jazz, and I had just discovered that guitar is a real instrument, like clarinet or something, you know? And so, for me, I was like, oh no, I'm a very serious guitarist now. I can't cut my hair like this and, you know, go do this. 3 months later, they signed an $11 million contract with Universal Motown. So that was the kick in the butt that I needed to go, okay, a job is a job. If you want to play music, then go play music.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't overanalyze the situation that you're getting yourself into. It is a risk, you know, because really that's what it was for me, was the stability thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't overanalyze the risk, and if it's something that you can do feasibly, then do it. The worst that can happen is you won't like it, and then you can stop doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but you need to have 2 out of 3 elements for any art project or musical project. And it's, you either got to have, like, good people, or the money's got to be good, or the music's got to be good.
Yeah.
So you got to have at least 2 of those. And if you don't, get out of there.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And it might be a situation where, you know, like back when I was in an original band like Darby, it was, you know, the guys are great, and the music was great. We were creating, for the first time, I was able to create everything I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, and not be limited by, oh, this is, you know, not this style, or, you know, this is for Afro-Cuban ensemble, or this is in a jazz band, you got to play it this way, or this is a big band, you got to play it this way. So it was, you know, the first time we were all like, let's make what we want, you know, and so we're really invested in it. But, you know, after a while, that elements shifted, you know, and so then you're like, oh, I'm missing more of what I had earlier from the start. So it's, you know, like anything else, it's time to leave, just like with your boy band thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
You know, the work is too much, and, you know, the money's good, but the music and the people,
yeah,
I don't know.
And that's what it came down to, and really, like, especially with that, the show at Fair Park, you know, what it really came down to for me was exactly what you're saying. I mean, the money was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the music, like, we were doing a lot of Beach Boys tunes. You know, it's a boy band, and it's summertime at Fair Park, so you know, doing a lot of Beach Boys tunes, which, you know, I do dig the Beach Boys a lot. I mean, I grew up listening to that kind of stuff. That's what my mom was really into. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, it was about whether or not I really liked the music I was doing and whether or not I really liked it. And of the ensemble, there were 4 of us, and there were 2 guys that I was really cool with, and then the other guys in, you know, like alternates and things like that, doing like swing sets for when people can't make it.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it wasn't that they were bad people, it just, we didn't really click.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the management is what really made the people aspect of it not work for me.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not typically the type to kind of buck management. It's not, you know, I I've been working here for almost 3 years. Like, it's
not a rebel.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to rock the boat if I don't have to. But really, it was just the management style and the personality types I couldn't work with. And, you know, for me, it came down to, is the money worth dealing with that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, there's something else in there that you talked about, you know, taking opportunity and not taking the opportunity with the one band that went to $1 million record deal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it reminds me of two guys. Tony Levins, famous bass player, he got a call from the Mahavishnu Orchestra. I read this in an article, and his secretary said that it's Mr. Vishnu and his orchestra. He's like, I don't know if that's me, you know. So he misunderstood the message and was kind of kicking himself for not being part of John McLaughlin's Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Yeah.
But he's still made it. I mean, his career is like massive. You know, he still records and he had a very successful career. So just because he missed one thing, you know, doesn't mean that you're going to miss everything.
Yeah.
And, I forgot who else I was going to say, but I've heard people say this before. You got to believe in your ability to create opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, so if you miss something because it doesn't fit, that's okay. You know, and now I remember who it was. Matt Chamberlain. He's a drummer, and he's played now with like Fiona Apple and Alanis Morissette. He's done all these recordings for a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Like a lot of recordings. And he was actually the first drummer in Pearl Jam.
Oh, wow.
Right? And he left because it wasn't like, it's not really my style. You know, they're a great bunch of guys. I could tell they're really going to go somewhere, is what he said. But he ended up leaving the group, and then Pearl Jam went, you know, Pearl Jam. So, but he's still working, you know, and doing really well for himself, and closer to what he needed for himself, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess everybody listening out there is being true, right? That's kind of a common theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is being true to yourself. If that means the work you're doing isn't fulfilling you, shape it, shift it, right?
Yeah.
So let's go into that a little bit. What are some projects that you're doing now that is closer to, like, the music component is really fulfilling? Like, what are some stuff?
Well, right now I've been writing a lot. You know, just sort of trying to get all of this music that's been in my head and sort of developing and mutating in my head for years. Trying to get it down on paper and then trying to get it down on record.
Yeah.
So the idea for me right now is within the next year, I'm trying to get a full album of original compositions of mine put together. And I'm working with guys that I've met in the scene.
Sure.
Which is one of the nice things about being a freelance musician and playing like freelance gigs, is you end up meeting other people who play freelance gigs.
Yeah.
And those are typically going to be a higher caliber musician than the people who are like permanently in certain cover bands or things like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm putting that kind of thing together with some of those guys. So, you know, right now it's sort of a postal service-esque kind of way of writing where, you know, I'm coming up with an idea or I have an idea and I'm getting it down on paper, and so, you know, I'll give it to the bass player that I'm working with, Todd Birdwell, and go, okay, you know, this is what I'm thinking of, you know, and kind of in this sort of style, so, you know, here's this, these are the changes, or this is the concept. And then he'll come up with something and send it back to me, and we'll kind of do that back and forth. And, you know, I have drummers that I'm working with on this kind of stuff, but right now I don't have anything nailed down as far as that's concerned, because right now it's really just sketches.
Sure,
Until, you know, I have enough, I'll probably get like 30 or 40 down and then weed it out.
Yeah, well, the ones that are good, like the 10 or 12, right?
Exactly. You know, the album-worthy tracks.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on right now with that. And it's more, you know, it's what I want it to be.
Sure.
It's, you know, for me it's to be able to stretch and to be able to explore the sounds that I have in my head.
What kind of style, primarily?
Fusion jazz.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's a big thing, especially in our area right now, because I think now for those of us in the DFW area, seeing groups like, well, I mean, Snarky Puppy, of course, have really big success, especially success, I think is the word that I wanted to say. I don't know if that's what I said. But having really big success, you know, especially for a group in that genre, which I guess you would call it fusion jazz, because that's just sort of an umbrella term that would fall under.
Right. Yeah, titles are really tough.
Yeah, especially when you have a 30-piece band like Snarky Puppy, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know that it's 30 people, but yeah, it's a big band. Or, you know, seeing like Funky Knuckles, and those guys are doing really well with what they're doing. That's definitely fusion jazz, like getting really out there. And so, you know, I think for me, seeing that, and for other people that are into that style, you know, seeing those bands have that success is making us go, okay, well, it's worth doing. It's worth trying.
Another risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, worth taking.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think they're making more money off of selling records, or going out and performing, doing tours and stuff?
Well, I think for Snarky Puppy right now, what's really working for them is the fact that they're creating a community, which is what the whole movement of Snarky Puppy has been since its onset, has been to create this community of musicians to work together, to record and do things like that. And so, you know, for them, they basically have just this giant band of some of the best studio musicians you could ask to have. Yeah. So, and now they have a record label that they're working with. So I think that's helping them kind of hedge their bets as far as that's concerned.
Right.
But I do think for them it's mostly shows. Whereas with Funky Knuckles, I really am not certain. I know that they tour pretty extensively. For them, it's like a, you know, write, record, tour, repeat situation. So yeah, I think that's how they're doing it. And, you know, honestly, that's, at the end of the day, that's what I want to do, is perform. Sure. You know, I want to be able to touch people with what I'm creating. Yeah, like that. Like so.
Hopefully with your music, right?
Yeah, with my music, specifically. It's a family show.
So, let's go into a little bit of the pay.
Okay.
Right? So what are your experiences with pay? And, you know, calling yourself a professional musician, that's different than saying I'm in a band.
Yeah.
At least to me, because I was in a band, and we didn't get paid. So I wouldn't say I was a professional back then.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, but I was a sales manager during the day.
Yeah,
you know, and my guitar player was a bartender. So, saying you're a professional musician, what are some ways that what are some income streams you've had?
Well, definitely teaching has been a big part of it for me, and I think for any musician who's trying to make a living doing it, there's sort of this misperception that teaching gets in the way of being a musician. Right. And I think I learned really early on, because my high school band director is a jazz guitarist. Yeah. And so I think I learned really early on that you can do both. I mean, even if you're doing what he did, which is working, you know, 8-hour days teaching at a school, plus he's a marching band director, so that's just ungodly hours. Yeah. But he, you know, he was still performing, still playing with his big band, still writing and performing with the Dallas Wind Symphony, things like that. So teaching is definitely a great way to, for me, to allow myself to do the things that I want to do as a musician. Sure. Other than that, I mean, you know, as far as income streams go, again, the biggest thing for me has been taking all the work I can get, regardless of whether or not it's my style or whether or not it's what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, I can either do music or not do music, you know?
Right. Work in a bar, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I worked full-time at Jamba Juice for 1.5 years before I really started making it as a musician. Sure. You know,
so what kind of gigs are you doing to do that, aside from teaching?
Yeah,
You're going out and doing gigs. How often do you do that?
I perform every weekend, almost without fail. I mean, there is, you know, the random weekend here or there that I'm not performing. But typically I'm trying to book out, Thursday, Friday, Saturday every week.
Is it with different people each time?
Yeah, pretty much always.
You're like the hired gun.
Yeah,
assignment.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, one weekend, for example, in this past summer, there was one weekend where I was doing the shows at Fair Park all week, teaching here.
Yeah.
And then also doing, one weekend I did a wedding, also a benefit for Habitat for Humanity, and then played an acoustic cover duo at a bar in Addison somewhere.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a wide variety of stuff, and that's covering like the boy band stuff, the pop covers on acoustic guitar, cover band at a Habitat benefit, full on rock
stuff,
band.
Rock stuff,
yeah, rock pop, top 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got your jazz stuff.
Yeah, and then jazz stuff, which, that's home for me. That's
right. Oh yeah.
That's what I want to be doing. But of course, not every gig is going to be jazz because, unfortunately, the state of culture in the United States is not so great.
Right. Well, what about? I was listening to this earlier on another podcast, and they were talking about how one guy has tried to diversify, like you said, because some of the gigs, they might not pay, but they're really good opportunities to kind of get his face in front of people.
Yeah.
And then not just the fans and stuff like that, but other musicians.
Yeah, definitely.
And so talk a little bit about how you mix that up. Which gigs are paying and which gigs are more like beneficial non-monetarily?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gigs that I would say are probably least lucrative would end up being the jazz gigs, just because that's the nature of the beast. Not to say that we don't get paid on jazz gigs, because at this point, for the guys that I play with, jazz-wise, it's like we can't really justify going out and doing, a 3.5, 4 hour gig for no money. So, yeah, I mean, with that said, I performed for a year or more every weekend at a bar in Dallas that I won't name, where we weren't making any money.
Yeah.
Like none, maybe $20 to split among 5 guys.
Yeah, right.
And then like half price dinner and 2 free beers or something, like just terrible.
Yeah.
But it was in Deep Ellum, it was in Dallas, and other jazz guys played there. I mean, to the point where Shelley Carroll was also playing there.
Real fit, big saxophone player, right?
Yeah. Brad Lely, who's he teaches sax at UNT.
Right.
He showed up because we were hosting a jam.
Sure.
And he showed up one week, just blew a solo, and then walked out.
That's awesome.
But that's the thing, is that's been a really great vehicle for all of us to meet people,
right,
and to get the gigs where it will pay.
Yeah, they're going to call you up. And go, hey, I saw you at that thing. And then I need a guy. I need a saxophone guy. I need a guitarist. Yeah,
and like case in point with that would be they do a dinner set, which is usually where they have the jazz groups, and then they would have. It is Deep Ellum, so of course, come 10 p.m., it's rock time.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had like a cover party band coming in to play after us. And so the guys in my group, we were all sitting out on like the little patio area and just chatting. And I heard the guys in the band that were coming on after us talking on the street, and the singer and the bass player were like arguing with each other. And the singer's going, "No, ask him." And the bass player's like, "No, man, I don't want to." The singer's going, "No, ask him." And so the bass player turns to me, he's like, "Hey, man, our keyboard player is going to be like 2 hours late.
Yeah.
Can you fill in on this gig?" And it's like, "Well, I don't know what you guys are playing."
Sure, right.
And he goes, "Oh, it's top 40s, it's easy." I was like, "Yeah, I get that, but I don't know your set."
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, come on, it's cool." And so we go up, and we one of the first tunes we played was "Beat It," which as a guitar player, retrospectively, I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't know the song.
You should know that, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's Van Halen.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Okay, beat it." And I was like, "Okay." And so I started thinking about the song, and they had 2 drummers for some reason, but the 2 drummers are both singing the main riff at me.
That's funny.
In different keys, as if I've never heard the song.
Right.
And so I'm just like, yeah, guys, I know how it goes. And the bass player, who is an educated musician, is just like, oh, it's an E minor 7 arpeggio with a 9. And I was like, da-da-da-da. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. And then I had the song.
That's right.
You know, and so now I've played with that bass player because we sort of bonded over that experience.
Yeah. So you were playing guitar in that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's funny.
But again, that's an example of taking risks.
Yeah.
And also playing for no money, but using it as a way to network.
Yeah, to get seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, what else? What are some other situations? You've done some of your own composition, but have you ever done composition for money? Have you ever done that kind of a songwriting for others?
I've never sold compositions. The closest I've gotten to that is getting paid to transcribe things.
Okay.
Which, playing with some country bands, like freelancing, you know, if they don't have a book for you with their originals in it, you know, a lot of the time, especially if you're a trained musician with a good ear who understands how to chart things, you know, if you get a freelance gig to do something like that and they don't have a book for you, you can offer to make that book for money.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and so that's the thing, is the guy that I was living with, he just asked me if I was going to do that because they didn't have a book for me, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, you should ask if they want you to transcribe the tunes, and then, you know, you could charge them for it.
Yeah.
And so I told them, you know, hey, I can make a book, so whenever you have to hire another guitar player, you'll have charts.
Right, you got it.
And they were like, yeah, that'd be great. And I said, okay, I'll do it for $20 a song.
Okay.
And they said, fine. You know, but considering it's Texas and it's an original country band and like the Red Dirt circuit, you know, they have a lot of originals. And so I ended up transcribing like 25, 26 tunes. Yeah. And that was on top of what I was making playing with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so, you know, that's something else that I've been able to do. I haven't really been able to sell any music as far as like compositions go, just because I haven't really found an avenue to do that.
Yeah. That might be someone else might have figured that out really well. But so you're more focused on the performing side, and then finding the situations like teaching or finding a way to transcribe and do stuff. Because I've thought of that too. I've had to transcribe charts for my students. And then I thought, man, maybe I should sell this.
Yeah, right.
Just because, you know, I'm sure someone else doesn't want to transcribe this thing. You know, spend 2 hours doing this, you know.
Yeah.
Here are some insights from today's show. Understand the role stability should play in your life. It's in our nature to seek out safety and security, and the lack of those needs make us very tense and agitated. But according to psychologist Abraham Maslow, higher level needs such as self-actualization are equally important and can be pursued simultaneously to our baseline needs. So, if music is how you want to fulfill your daily life and earn a living, then CJ suggests a few simple yet effective tricks. Number 1. Take risks. Push beyond your comfort zone. Put yourself into situations that force you to get through challenges. Book a show or say yes to that gig, even if it's outside of your ability. You will learn a lot in the process and gain confidence in yourself, making you more valuable in the future for other gigs. CJ talks about the value of diversifying in the types of music you play and the gigs you take. Not only will this make you a better musician, it can help increase your income streams, fulfill the security needs, and prevent boredom. Number 2, think of your other skills and use them in job searches you haven't thought of before. CJ's background in theater and dance helped him get a high-paying gig he wouldn't have normally sought out. What other skills could you combine with your music to get some interesting new work? Number 3, believe in your ability to create new opportunities. Don't sweat it if you turn down a gig, then find out later how great it was. You've got to stay true to yourself when choosing work. Remember, the 2 out of 3 rule. Good people, good money, good music. If a potential gig has at least 2 of those, take it. If not, ditch it. Number 4, do some freelance work. Being a sideman for someone else's project is a great way to meet other musicians. That can lead to more work and improve your skills. When you're ready to release your own music, you will have a talented network of musicians to call on. Now, let's get back to the show.
Well, what about some advice for other musicians out there that are trying to get, break into more of a professional aspect? What would you say, what's the one thing they can do differently?
The one thing that I think a musician trying to get into the professional scene could and probably should do differently is work on diversifying what you're capable of doing.
Okay.
That's been the biggest thing to me is, there are a lot of musicians who go, I do this.
Yeah.
And I do this thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like even working here as teachers, we see a lot of that with the turnover of teachers here, just that, a lot of them are going, well, I'm teaching and it's teaching and I enjoy it some, but it's not what I want to do, and I do this one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, to me that seems like a really narrow scope with which to view the potential revenue streams as a musician. And so for me, it's been about taking those risks and really trying to, even if you fall on your face,
right.
By taking a risk, it's going to be a lesson, and it'll show you where you need to diversify yourself.
Sure.
I mean, the country gigs that I played in the very early stages of me doing freelance country work, it was a lot of, guys coming up to me afterwards in the band going, yeah, man, you're really good, but you need to unjazz your solos.
Yeah.
And that's when I stopped and went, okay, let me go get, some Brent Mason and Albert Lee recordings and just transcribe that. And so just as much as you can get into your ear and in turn translate into your hands, your fingers, whatever instrument you're playing, the better off you're going to be. Because it's not like learning how to chicken pick to play country is going to hurt you as a jazz player.
Right. It's going to give you some perspective, some voicing, some phrasing.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, when I studied Afro-Cuban music, it helped my rock music so much. My groove and my rock playing was way more colorful and interesting.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of learn to play rock, too. I couldn't throw all my cool jazz and Afro-Cuban licks in there. They're like, you play a little bit more backbeat, a little bit more rock and roll. So I had to learn how to do that, too. But it did make it more colorful.
Yeah.
People always say, it's like, man, you got some tasty stuff in there. And you're still playing rock, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, I like that. I like, this week practicing a variety of things.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, as far as advice for people trying to get into the professional music world, it really all comes down to practice and effective practice.
Sure.
That's one of the biggest things, and we see it all the time, fortunately, as teachers, which sort of holds the mirror to ourselves as professional musicians, that, if you're not practicing what you don't know, if you feel good about what you're practicing, and feel good about how you're playing it, you're not really practicing.
Yeah. I've fallen in that trap a lot.
Yeah.
So that's my thing, is the more I teach, the more I go, I'm not practicing enough.
Yeah,
And it's what's funny is I'm busy, I'm teaching, I work another job, and so just life getting in the way. All the tricks that I teach my students how I'm practicing are the same tricks I keep trying to tell myself. It's like, okay, I've got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Work on this thing that I'm not very good at.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's about finding that time, about utilizing that time efficiently.
Sure.
There's, regardless of your voice on the instrument or anything like that, you're not going to be able to effectively communicate it unless you've worked on those fundamental skills to allow you to express it.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, anything else?
That's all I've got.
Sounds good. Well, CJ, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah. And where can we find you on the web?
CJThompsonmusic.com.
Okay.
It's currently being rebuilt by a friend of mine who was in that band that we were touring with. From one of my friends from high school. He's a web developer now.
Good to know.
And so, yeah, it's a good network to have.
Yeah.
So the site is currently under construction, but it's cjthompsonmusic.com.
Okay, and that's Thompson, T-H, right?
Yeah, T-H Thompson.
Thompson.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool, CJ.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show,
Of course.
And you guys have a good one. All right, cool.
Sweet.
Do you have a question about being a pro musician? Leave a comment and I'll include it in an upcoming episode. And please, tell me what you think of the show. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode. Go to ripsmusic.com for show notes and resources. There you can find links to all my social media. And thanks for listening.